Version 1.1 of Trimflow comes with a new tool for baking previously placed trims into masks. These masks can then be used for texture and material creation, either in Blender itself or in applications like Substance, Marmoset Toolbag, or a game engine. In this video, we will take a closer look at the baker and see how it works. First of all, Trimflow's decals can always be rendered directly with Eevee or Cycles without baking anything. The material setup can sometimes get a little bit complicated though, and is not really useful if you want to export your work to other applications. This is why the baker was created. For this example, I have placed a simple pattern and some stitches onto a mesh object. The object is already unwrapped. The pattern here is a simple black and white mask. The stitches are channel-packed RGB masks. This is how it looks in solid mode with color set to texture. And this is how it looks in Eevee. When it comes to baking, it doesn't really matter how you build your decals material. Just make sure that it has your trim texture assigned and that you can actually see your pattern in the viewport. Let's first bake the pattern in the middle. We select the mesh object and have a look at the bake panel. The baker will automatically find and bake all corresponding renderable decals of the currently selected object. The info text here will always tell you what is about to happen. It says that decals from 2 decal objects will be baked. Right now, we just want to bake a black and white mask with this pattern here. So let's disable rendering for the decal object with the stitches. Let's enter a name for the mask and also increase the image size a little. Since we are about to bake a grayscale mask, we should set color mode to black and white. The image background needs to be just like in the trim sheet, which is black. Let's also add some margin for better results on UV seams. And hit the bake button. Blender will be unresponsive during baking. Just be patient, it shouldn't take too long. Once the bake is finished, the panel automatically switches to Override Existing. This way, you can easily rebake an image after you made some changes. Let's have a look at the result. This is looking good so far. So let's pretend that we totally forgot to enable mirroring on our decal. A few changes here and there. Select the object again, make sure Override Existing is active and the right image selected. Then hit the bake button again. That's it, we successfully refreshed our baked image. Let's do something with it. For this example, I will simply duplicate the mesh object and make a copy of its material. Inside the material, we can now use our baked map. The baker already set it to non-color data automatically, which is important, because our masks are not sRGB color maps. We will now use the mask to blend some of the material attributes and add displacement. I already subdivided the mesh and enabled displacement in the material settings. Let's switch to Cycles so that we can see it. Let's also bake the stitches. Enable them for rendering, disable rendering of the other pattern, and select the mesh again. We set the bake panel back to create a new image. But this time, in the color settings, we need RGB for multiple channels. In this case, it's a height map in the red channel, which means a neutral gray background. The thread mask in the green channel is a white on black mask, and ambient occlusion in the blue channel has a white background. Set everything according to the trim or trim sheet that you want to bake. Don't bake trims with different background colors together in the same mask. It may be fine depending on how exactly you use the mask afterwards. But as a rule of thumb, I wouldn't recommend doing that. It's finished baking. Let's have a look. This is looking good at first glance, but something is amiss here. It didn't bake the parts correctly where the decals overlap. Switching from solid view to Eevee, we can see that the decals are actually not supposed to cancel each other out. Luckily, there's an easy fix. Select the decal object. In the advanced settings of the Edit Trim Decals panel, there's a new setting called Bake Layer. This can be set from 1 to 2 or 3. Turn that up on one of the overlapping decals so that they are not on the same layer anymore. Let's just set it to 2 and bake again. Trimflow's baker will now bake each layer separately and combine them afterwards. This will increase baking time, but compared to doing all that manually, this is still a huge time saver. And it's fixed. Simple as that. Let's include the baked stitches in the material. This time we have one map per color channel, but it's basically still just blending things together. This is how it looks now in Cycles. Again, this is just a demonstration. You can use your baked maps in whatever application you want. And each time you change something on the decals, you just need to bake them again for a refresh. By the way, you can also bake several objects' decals into the same mask by selecting all of them, as long as their UVs don't overlap, or bake them onto another target by selecting that as the active object. Have a look into Trimflow's documentation for more detail. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or feedback, let me know in the comments section below the video.